Okie dokie. Welcome to Quixotic Heights, where we dive deep into the stories of courage, resilience, and transformation. Today's Quixote is Leslie Lew, and she's an author, a self-defense instructor. She's a motivational speaker. She's a podcast host. She's the founder of Reclaiming Your Courage, Warrior Queens Rise. She is just amazing. She's a generational trauma breaker. We'll understand what that means. A fierce advocate for women's empowerment and a very powerful voice for reclaiming space, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. So in today's conversation, we are going to talk to Leslie about how to open up, how to empower yourself. She's going to share her personal journey and the importance of self-defense and how that what led to her work. And so with that, I would like to invite everyone to welcome Miss Leslie Lew to the Quixotic Heights podcast. Hello, my dear.
Woo woo! What's up, everybody? I'm down. I'm connected from the San Francisco Bay Area. Got my karaoke mic, aka podcast mic, so I'm ready. I'm fired up.
Well, let's karaoke then.
Don't stop believing. Hold on to that feeling.
I love it. Yes. Miss Leslie, tell us about your quixotic dream.
Whew. Man. I think that the best way for me to illustrate it is because we're going to be talking about my children's book. And I'm going to give you a very powerful image as to what birthed my dream. And so when I think about my own personal trauma, and I think about the emotional pain and kind of the things that I've had to endure as an Asian woman, as a woman of color in business, it always takes me back to a vision of me as a 6-year-old girl. And when I really started diving into, I once worked with a Cambodian somatic writing coach who kind of helped me navigate some of the pain that I was experiencing, and hypnosis with coaches throughout the year. And there's always a visual of 6-year-old me in a corner of a bedroom, engulfed in flames. The building is burning. Beams are falling down everywhere. I'm in tears. I'm crying out for my family members, and no one is coming. And the flames turn into heavy, thick smoke. I can't see anything. My eyes are burning. And that is an image that has taken me so long to kind of break through. And it's something that I use today when I coach others. But part of my dream and vision is about meeting my higher self. And so here there's this little girl in the bedroom, and my dream is the same dream. And it is what motivated me to start my business, to write this children's book. The dream is of Warrior Leslie kicking down the door, reaching out her hand to that little girl that was so terrified, who thought that she would be abandoned and alone and die by herself. And so my dream is about helping people bridge those gaps, that you don't need a savior, that you don't need anyone else, and that true healing is possible. So whether you feel physically uncomfortable and not safe, or emotionally vulnerable, emotionally isolated, emotionally alone, that everybody has that inner warrior. So my dream is helping people tap into that, because I think that people can resonate with that loneliness and deep sense of grief and resentment and anger that no one's coming to help you. So that visual is kind of the best way that I could describe my dream and everything that drives everything that I do.
Amazing. So let's talk about generational trauma breaker. What does that really mean to you?
It means making a conscious decision to stop handing down pain that I didn't even ask for. I grew up being told to be quiet and obedient and to not make waves. And to me, the pattern had to change. It was the start of the pandemic. And what really, really said enough is enough is that I had just had my second child. My daughter was a couple of months, and I was doing the right thing, and I was being a great daughter. And it was the height of Asian hate crimes. I said, "Mom, come live with us. Come enjoy, your life with your grandbabies." I did not realize how complex of an ask that was going to be for her and for me living in a household with my mother. And so we're in the living room, my husband and I, my son, who's like 4 at the time, and my baby girl in my arms, and she's just crying. And my mom comes into the room and she's like, "You need to make her be quiet."
Mm.
And it turned into this power struggle of me like, I'm never going to make her do anything. She was just telling her, just make her shut up. And it just became this power struggle with my mom and I. And my husband just kind of knew that this was going to escalate. And he's like, "Can you guys just stop fighting in front of the kids and go upstairs?" And so, being a pattern breaker, this moment that happened for me is walking up the stairs and my mother just, "You don't talk back to me. How dare you embarrass me in front of your family? I'm your mother. You're a horrible daughter." And the whole time her and I are fighting, she's on the top of the stairwell talking down to me. Very powerful image there, right? And then I'm looking down at my son who had followed us, who idolizes his grandmother. He's in tears because this whole interaction, we know biologically, is impacting him. And later did biologically impact him to create a speech delay, to have a lot of impact. So I had to look at my son and be taken to all the moments of my life in which I saw my mom being either verbally harassed or physically assaulted by men in her life. It was a
Mm.
twofold moment. It's like I'm having compassion for my son, and then I have my mother who raises her voice at me and just starts to strike me from at the top of the stairs. My mother scratched me up. I'm bloodied. She proceeds to assault me.
Wow.
Um, and in that moment, I either made the decision to not say anything like I normally do, because up until that point, I feel like 40 years of my life I've done everything that has been asked of me. I cannot tell you the imaginable pain of having to stand in my power and subdue my mom. Not aggressively, I'm trained enough in martial arts to know how to restrain my mother. And in that moment of physically restraining her and voicing myself and saying, you'll never do this to me again. Like if you cross me again, you're out of here. And for her to lay on the guilt and say, you really would throw me out to be homeless? I said, yes. If you harm me again, if you physically cross me again, I will throw you out and you'll never be part of our lives again. And so I realized that I was not living fully up until that point. I realized that I was performing safely, but breaking generational trauma isn't. It's lonely and it's liberating.
Mm.
It was me making the decision that I don't want to be my mother. And I think that was an empowerment moment, but it was a very deep grieving moment for me. And so that's the best way I can describe generational pattern breaking, is where you notice this is the pattern. My mom hits, mental health struggle, my mom hits. She has been hit. I've seen her all throughout my life being hit by men. And so that is why I had to kind of reclaim and really say for myself, enough is enough. Like I won't let my children go through what I had gone through.
Wow. Thank you, Leslie, for sharing that. How is your relationship with your mom today?
It's wildly complicated in the most like wild ways. People are like, "Oh my gosh, like how could your mom do that? She's awful." And it's like, "No, like I can have compassion towards my mother of why she did what she had to do. I'm still learning parts of myself and how to forgive her." Right. And so we have these moments where we have an understanding and she could recognize that I definitely raise my kids differently. But then we have power struggles, right? Of
Yeah.
her having to revert back to what she knows, which is like, I'm the matriarch. I am going to fight with aggression. And man, it's been a wild ride of me being like, okay, that's you, but that's not me.
Hmm.
Right. So the relationship today is constantly about rebuilding and having moments where I could humanize my mother.
Mm.
So I have gratitude, I have anger, I have sadness, and I just hope that it can come full circle that by the time she may no longer be here with us, that I can like find peace. And
Hmm.
so, anyone who's on their healing journey, I just want to empower you that it's not linear. It's not like, oh, this happened and her and I are, it's moment to moment with her and I, where I have to regulate my nervous system and myself of like, like it's not like I sit down with her and talk about what it was like growing up in the Korean War and losing her family. Like we for her as a Korean American, it's difficult. Like there's aspects that haunt her and that she's not ready to talk about. And so I would love to get those stories, but there's tension at times and then there's beautiful moments of us being mothers and being able to witness her being a grandmother and her witnessing me being a mother.
Yeah. I like what you said about the grieving part because as we grow and look to new chapters in our life, we do have to kind of mourn, the past or mourn the previous relationship, and it's going to be always developing and evolving. Um, and it's a journey that we're on. It's not something that it's a one and done. And I commend you for continuing to walk that path because it is a definitely a brave one, and it can be lonely, but it definitely is the strong path for us, right? You started two things. You started the Reclaiming Your Courage and also the Warrior Queen's Rise. Tell me a little bit more about what prompted those two and what are they?
Yeah. So much going on. So, I am the founder of a company called Reclaiming Your Courage. And so, a little bit context for your audience is that I have been a lifelong martial artist. I have two black belts, right? It's the equivalent of like going to university, right? My entire life growing up, love martial arts. And over the years, especially leading up to the pandemic, I was doing the traditional thing, like loved being in an MMA gym environment, grew up in great spaces, but I started noticing something that was missing, specifically for people like myself who have been victims of gender based violence or any kind of thing, is that there would always be a handful of women in the self defense class that just weren't getting the technique right away. And everyone in the class is like rolling their eyes or like trying to yell at them. And so I was collaborating with two other lovely women and I started holding space for these people. And what I mean by that is I started to take a moment and ask them, what's happening for you right now? Like, what's the story of what got you here? Instead of just forcing them to do a physical technique, which is what people think of when they think of self defense. And
Mhm.
so it opened up a very powerful framework that I have created and a method of how I approach people being able to feel safe, right? To be able to stand in your power and realize that there's really a mind body voice connection. You cannot just tell someone to go throw punches and go toe to toe with someone. Usually there's blockages, right? Limiting beliefs, how you grew up, um, and realizing that people struggled with just even using their voice. And
Mhm.
so while everyone else was like, let's get them to roll around and do this stuff and kick, I was more interested in, well, how do we help people feel safe in themselves? And so by taking the time to create this framework, then it's like the technique for people became so easy, right?
Mm.
It no longer became, I'm not strong enough, I'm not this. It's like it clicked for them. And so by working with them, then you would see tiny, tiny women like throwing like 200-pound men off of them. And the technique and everything flowed. But it's really tapping into like self defense in this holistic way. So I'll naturally pause there because I know we'll talk more about the spark. So that was reclaiming your courage. Is like we really need to find a way like that McDojo stuff and the stuff that we know, pepper spray, kicking someone in the balls, like that's very old school. And I for sure believe, and I will die on this hill and say that we need a more modern approach to help really empower people. And that
Yeah.
comes from within, like tapping into like your strength. And you've seen me a few times, and it's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything other than just helping to really like reveal what you already have. But traditional spaces didn't really allow for that. Warrior Queens Rise. Gosh, that is not actually something I set out to do. I went on a speaking tour, was invited by a friend, was like, hey, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to be an international speaker. But I also know that I've always dreamed of going to Kenya and going on safari. I know nothing about what's about to happen on this tour. All I know is that I'm going to be able to speak. After 10 days and speaking to well over 10,000 young people in Kenya, we realized very quickly that the messages that my other co-founder and I, her representing kind of this like mentality of queens, holding yourself with grace and beauty, and this like ancestral warrior imagery that I was pointing out for the crowd was something that transcended language and culture. And these young people who were orphans, who were in underserved communities, really resonated with. So we came back and we're like, we believe that this is a movement. And so we co founded Warrior Queens Rise. And I'll naturally pause there, but that is a global women's empowerment movement, specifically focusing on helping communities around gender-based violence, female genitalia mutilation, access to sanitary pads, and mental health.
That's a lot. That's huge. And when you say movement, hell yeah, that's a movement, and it's one we definitely need. And I know that you are one of the right people to lead it because I have seen you in action. I have listened to you before, and that's why I'm so inspired to have you on this podcast so that you can continue to share your methods and your stories and everything that you do with the rest of the world. I want to know how you define self-defense because it's not just for you, it's not just physical. Like you said, it's the mind, body, voice. How do you bring that all together and help people to understand too that it is a holistic and a collective thing?
Yeah, it's a great question. It really is as simple as two concepts.
Mhm.
One is empowerment starts when you realize that no one is coming to save you. And that's a very important concept that I teach because when you look for external things, people, your partner, your spouse, whatnot, that then you're not taking your power back. You're wishing and you're hoping someone's going to do the right thing. And so that's what I really like to break down for people is that if you don't truly believe that you're worth fighting for, then none of this, whether it's the physical or using your voice to advocate for yourself at work or navigating hard conversations with clients, that are annoying, right? That push your boundaries, or dealing with toxic family members. None of that matters if you don't believe that. I can teach you 10,000 techniques, but it won't register and it won't actually mean anything unless you know why you're doing what you're doing. And so, by definition, for me, self defense really is not the stuff, right? Self defense is, how do I feel safe within myself? How do I navigate spaces that make me feel most vulnerable to a type of physical or non physical attack? And how do I create spaces where people I love feel safe? That feels simple to me. Is like, how do I make it so that people in my community feel safe to come talk to me? How do
Hmm.
I make it safe for my daughter to come to me if something were to happen at school, like an uncomfortable interaction? How do I create safe spaces within myself and the spaces around me?
What would you say is like the biggest myth that women generally have when it comes to their ability to defend themselves and feel like they're worth defending?
Yeah, I would say the number one thing I hear, like a broken record, is that I'm not strong enough. And that is such a gut wrenching statement because I've worked with women of varying ages, whether you're an athlete, whether you are someone who is in your retirement age, middle aged exec. I have had people who have been victims of a sexual assault or a physical attack. And because they didn't believe they were strong enough, they let the situation happen. That's an important distinction, is that they felt that they were better off letting these horrible things happen to them rather than fighting for themselves. Like, let's just look at that for a minute, where it was like, okay, so you let someone sexually assault you because you were more afraid of what people in your apartment complex would be judging you as. We've got to talk about that more than
Yeah.
the I can physically show you how to maneuver out of that. And I've helped women after the fact of like showing them you actually are strong enough, right? Like this whole idea of like, I'm not strong, my voice is not strong enough, my body's not strong enough. I'm like, bullshit. I'll show you right now. I'll show you how to get out of this. It's more than that. And so I spend a lot of time with people who are like, I'm not strong enough. But really, there's usually a core wound, generational wound, ancestral wound, a mindset of something that's really blocking them from advocating for themselves, using their voice. It may not even have to do with anything physical. It's just like, oh, it's not even me worth like rocking the boat for. And that's where I'm here to smash and tell people it
Hmm.
can be messy, you can be loud, you can be rowdy, because it's your life and it's your ability to leave a legacy and come back home to your loved ones.
Absolutely, because you're not fighting just for yourself. You're fighting for your loved ones. You're showing your family, your children how to be strong and stand up for themselves. And it truly is a mindset shift, right? Because one of the things that you've talked about a lot is leverage. It's not about physical strength. It's being, having that mental capacity and understanding and awareness, but also using the leverage. It goes down back to physics. When we're in school, we're like, I'm never going to use physics. Why do I need to learn this?
Yeah, it's sheerly leverage. And so like some people either come from I'm not strong enough, or you have in the industry, I will say what I challenge with people is you take a couple of women's self-defense classes and then you think you're Wonder Woman and you
Mhm.
think you're hot stuff and that you can, and I'm like, but that is false. That is misleading. I never tell any of my clients to go toe to toe with the men. Like this is not the movies. Like you do not trade blow for blow. I think that's the problem with media and some of the things that we're sold about self-defense is that people, of course, people want to believe that you're subhuman and that you're a tough woman. I'm like, surrendering or doing enough to escape the situation to get home safely to your loved one. Like, I just show you how to do enough so that you can escape and run away. This is not like some people are overly confident and they're like, no problem. I'm like, no, like we are not meant to physically have it out with male counterparts. I'm
Mhm.
here. I'm not going to teach you that. I'm not going to say, yeah, everything I'm going to teach you is going to help you like escape from a man. It's like, no, this isn't going to be perfect. And it's not that you're going to come out of this unscathed, but knowing these things and this mindset and these things that I'm going to show you, it gives you a better chance to escape.
Yeah, absolutely. You're gonna get hurt. It's just a matter of getting home. Um, yeah, when you're talking, I'm thinking, okay, none of us, we're not Beth Dutton from Yellowstone. You know, we're not gonna go toe to toe and have these rowdy fights with, these men. And it boils down to, yeah, just getting home to our families. And that's an important message. Do you have a client that you've worked with or a class that you've worked with where you totally saw a shift from the beginning to, when you ended your work session with them, how they changed?
Oh, of course. Even in a matter of one Saturday. In a matter of one Saturday, there was a young lady that kind of fits that stereotypical profile, right? Asian woman who is more aware of these attacks on the Asian communities, is prominent. I don't, I want to protect myself. Quiet as a mouse the entire time. Doesn't want to engage, right? Just kind of wants to watch. And after kind of going through a 3 hour workshop, there's a point in time, and you've seen this, where I kind of help people use their voice as to like, so what would you say to someone if they crossed your physical boundary? What would you do? What would you say?
Hmm.
Right? We actually have to practice. You can't just like go from 0 to 200, y'all. Like, but not what I'm telling you to say. What do you actually want to say? Right? Or, what's your affirmation? What's your declaration? Right? And some people are like, F off, or please, sir, get away from me. And this young lady in her 20s, out of nowhere, like so tiny, I will, watch me.
Mm,
I can, I will, watch me.
that's pretty powerful.
So again, by creating safe spaces for people to share stories, to share what they're afraid of, to I feel like I have this gift of being able to like co-create spaces with people of like, yeah, let's really make this a space for all of us. And so I was like, whoa, you went from mouse to like roaring like tiger heart, lion heart. And she just, at the end of it, that activity, she was in tears, releasing because of so many years of suppression. She's like, I've never felt that powerful before, Leslie. And that had nothing to do with her punching a bag or rolling around on the floor. It was just like, I was like, so what was powerful about that? She's like, to just hear my voice and to feel like I will not be moved. And so again, I don't I don't try to do anything dramatic in my classes and the flashy stuff, and sometimes people look for that, but I'm like, it's moments like that. If you're in a class with someone who hasn't uttered a word for 2 hours, 3 hours, and partners up and is just like, no, right? Like back up. Or she literally is like, I will, watch me, release. And so to see what she's going to be able to achieve, right? Whether or not she ever gets physically attacked or whatnot, like she has a knowing now of what
Mhm.
it's like to stand in her power. And to me, that's what self defense is.
Yeah. No, I totally agree that. there's something to be said about just that confidence that you exude, the way your posture, the way you walk, the way you make eye contact, that in itself is a deterrent and empowering. And having gone through your workshops, I totally get it. And people won't necessarily get it until they actually go through and do the work. And it does take practice. I agree because, like even with me, I hate speaking, and I was like, oh, I'm never gonna be a public speaker. And then I found out, I guess I'm kind of a closet speaker, and now I'm just like, I'm gonna reclaim it. I'm gonna own it and say I'm a speaker, right? And it's just like speaking up with your voice, and it might sound very quiet at first, but the more we do it, the more we practice it, the more we become. Um, and I think that's really what you help us do in reclaiming our courage and rising as warriors. So that's just so beautiful. I see three books behind you. Is that a third book I see?
Yeah.
I know it's
It's actually three. I know. We didn't count Trailblazers. I was in the Asian Women Trailblazers book, which we were featured
Yeah,
in.
tell us about all three of your books.
The colorful one is a beautiful compilation that I was featured in the Asian Women Trailblazers Who Boss Up book alongside you, Dr. Julie Tran, Dr. Jinan Sawar. A beautiful book just highlighting Asian women that were able to break the bamboo ceiling. It's just such a lovely like compilation of being able to hear of we didn't do it this way. We created our own table. The second book on the bottom, the black covered, is actually a Warrior Queen's Rise book that Carissa and I wrote. It's a leadership and coaching manual because when we were in Kenya, the young people are like, we need mentorship. But then so we in our most recent tour where we actually impacted 23,000 lives in a matter of 10 days, we actually took our first trip and then we doubled it. We created this coaching, manual filled with concepts around queenhood and warriorhood to help these people have a framework of how to lead themselves and how to aspire for more. So it's a great tool. In fact, when we donated it to some of the schools, some of the faculty and the local leaders were reading through it and they're like, no, but this isn't just for young people. Like, we need this because we help the young people who've been impacted with their mental health. And so we need this kind of training because our mental health is affected because of all the young people we're helping. So that's
Mhm.
the second book. And then the third book is I have the heart of, see, it's better
Yeah.
to look in the photo. Um, but I wrote a children's book. I have the heart of a warrior, affirmations to empower kids. And so, really, it's geared towards children ages 5 to 12 around this concept of social emotional learning and, what to do when we have big feelings of not feeling like enough. And so, it's a great tool to help kids. The book guides kids through scenarios that happen to them, whether it's a math problem. And it helps the reader, the caregiver, or the teacher help the child develop a daily affirmation practice to help with their confidence and self-esteem. And the great thing about the book is that I wrote it because I'm like, but I needed these words growing up. Like, what do I need to heal my inner child because I'm a mom? And so I get great feedback from young people. They light up. It's a beautiful book. But the amount of overwhelming response that I get from adults, people who are parents or not, people in tears. Literally every other week, someone will reach out to me and be like, you know, some of these words I'm hearing, right? Like, I am strong, I am beautiful, like, I am never alone because I have the heart of a warrior resonates with so many people all over the globe.
It's a beautiful book, and the illustrations are phenomenal. Um, why don't you give us a reading from that book, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, sure. Okay. When I feel like I don't get the math problem, I remind myself that everyone learns at their own pace. I am a warrior. I try, I learn, I strive. I don't give up. I am a warrior. I will grow when I allow myself grace. I say, I am a warrior. I can figure this out. I can achieve anything. When I feel different, I remember that beauty shines from my heart. I am a warrior. I love what makes me different from everyone else. Warriors must have thick skin. I tell myself, I am strong. I am confident.
Love it. So you also had a podcast. Do you still have that?
Yeah, my Reclaiming Your Voice podcast started out, and I took a little hiatus from that. Um, and the reason why I took a hiatus from it is that I was a lot quicker to recognize burnout.
Mhm.
Right? I was doing beautiful things. And so, what I recognized in being a podcast host, just like you're doing now, is like, gosh, I love holding space for other people. So I met so many great guests, and my intention is to revamp it again. But I had to be really honest about what do I have capacity for? And
Mhm.
so my heart had different callings, right? Like, okay, great. In this season of my life, I feel very passionate about a podcast. And then I wasn't planning on becoming an international speaker and a humanitarian and going to Kenya and impacting lives and created a global movement. Um, and then I was at this Toronto conference and literally wrote this I Have the Heart of a Warrior book, literally source, spirit, whatever you want to call it, came to me. And I wrote this book on a napkin on my flight back from Toronto. So I don't have a podcast in this moment because I've allowed myself to not beat myself up for not maintaining something and about really honoring creating space for myself.
Yes.
Like, I think it's really important when you're a caregiver, you're a community leader, you're someone who loves other people and to nurture other people, which I am, like mother hen to everyone else. It's been really great for me to kind of zoom out from time to time and say, hey, this is what lights me up in this moment. I can always go back to it, but not feel like I have to do things out of like pushing through,
Mhm.
and having to persevere. It's like, no, I don't have to do that right now. I can do something else and it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. So as a motivational speaker, you travel quite a bit and you also have to tailor your message sometimes depending on your audience. How do you do that when there's a cultural or a generational difference or a dynamic that doesn't necessarily understand your background?
Yeah. So before I even step foot anymore on a stage, I no longer am available for certain things that don't align with me. So I spent a lot of time talking to the organizers about what is the value I'm going to bring, what is the audience, what is going to be meaningful to them. So I actually don't really tailor my message. It's the manner in which I deliver it is what changes. And
Hmm.
what I mean by that is the message is the same, the way that I deliver it. Maybe a little bit less cuss words here rather than there, right? But I'm like, that is a beautiful thing for me to embrace is that no, I'm not going to tailor it. I might make it shorter.
Hmm.
I might I might sing less in one and be more formal, right? So like when I spoke at the University of Cambridge, for example, when there was delegates, um, people of royal status and dignitaries, maybe
Hmm.
I'll speak a little bit more formally and have some formalities, but my message like my message was the same versus being in a room of 50 college students, right? So that rawness and the authenticity piece is always there. I tailor my message to how do I want people to feel? People don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And so I always meditate before I talk, and the only thing that I tailor to is what is the one thing I want people to feel at the end of this. That
Hmm.
is the only thing that changes, but the message is consistent. The way in which I deliver it might change, but these concepts that you hear me talking about all the time are the same.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're definitely a force to be reckoned with, and I want to understand how you got here because the Leslie of today, I'm sure, wasn't the Leslie of yesteryears, or the Leslie of the 6-year-old child. What defining event, if there was one, kind of put you on this path?
There is a serious Marvel like timeline for me. So it's not one moment. I'll kind of walk you through a lot of things in a very condensed manner because I can keep these timelines in my head and it's
Hmm.
part of my healing work and it's part of the memoir probably one day that I will write. But some significant moments for me would be age 8. My mom decides I'm not connected to my Korean heritage enough. So decides to ship me off to a plane to South Korea with family that I haven't met and a language I have no concept of.
Mm.
What she didn't know is that on that trip that I would be sexually assaulted on a camping trip by a family friend who knew that I would not be able to tell anybody because I have no concept of the language. So here we have fiery Taekwondo, like fired up Leslie, and years of isolated, don't want to play trauma Olympics, never told anybody about that situation. Even to this day, my mother doesn't know because of the pain that it would probably inflict on her is unbearable. So having to go through that, um, different points in my life after that, in watching my mother get physically assaulted in public by white men and harassed, racial comments. Um, and then I'll fast forward to something that I talked about recently when I was at Harvard is that I've always been a fighter. I've always been a warrior. After 2 black belts, I thought I had it all figured out. Like, I'm going to get my power back. But in college, I had a best friend at the time who was in an abusive relationship. And one thing led to another. And I thought that self defense would be enough, the physical stuff. I did not win in that situation. And so that ended me up in the hospital and a friendship with someone that I never got to see again because she had to watch the whole thing go down. That was a very, very big reality lesson for me of what we're missing in self defense because I thought that 2 black belts was enough.
Mm.
And so you could say that that was probably the start of my hero's journey of really having to go inward, of like, it's not enough. It's not enough to do the physical. Fast forward to points of my life and building my career as an executive assistant, working in the tech field, working in being a really good worker bee, having people harass me, tell me I was worth nothing, that I couldn't advocate for more pay. So many instances in my working career of being so silent. My family nearly being homeless, me having to drop out of college because my mom got sick, breast cancer, me not finishing an education, and just working, cleaning bathrooms, working 3 jobs, really thinking about ending my life so that my family could have an insurance payout because I just was so sick of having my worth attached to money and giving my family money. And so the real defining moment for me, for really what you're seeing today, was yes, that moment of me taking my power back from my mother, but it really was at the height of the pandemic of Asian hate crime spiking, and specifically around the time of the Atlanta spa shootings and Christina Yuna Lee's passing. And I shared this recently at a talk where I'm like, I forget that some young people don't know who Christina Yuna Lee was. And I'm like, well, this was someone who looked like me, who was my age, who was stabbed over 40 times in going to her apartment building in New York City. That that tied with so many people in my immediate community, elders, pregnant women, people who weren't even Asian, people who looked kind of Asian, like no holds barred of us being under attack, kept me up at night. And so what really sparked all of this that you're seeing of like really tapping into this ancestral warriorness of like, no, Leslie, you've always had this. Like, what could I possibly offer to the world? What could I possibly offer to kids that have nothing in Kenya? Who am I? All these questions, right? This search of being a speaker, of wanting to do good for people. It's like, I'm nothing. Like, I'm not worth it's my own value. But no, it was getting connected to my higher self and saying, like, no, this is the gift that you're giving to the world, that strength and that boldness and that unapologetic way of taking up space. Like I snapped because we were literally dying in our community and nobody was coming to help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that ties me back into the beginning of this episode where you asked me what was part of your dream. And I'm like, the dream and the nightmare was, again, that little girl in that room with the burning flames engulfed in smoke and no one coming. And so yeah, it was just I snapped, like enough was enough.
Yeah. We've been speaking for the past 45 minutes about all this, and I would love for you to now turn your attention to our listeners and speak directly to them for someone who may need to hear a little bit of Leslie to reclaim their courage and rise as warriors. What would you say to them?
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you've listened this far, and if something in you is vibrating or something feels activated, right? Like, I just wish I had that boldness and that courage. I want you to think about 7-year old, 6-year old you. And what is one thing lovingly you could say to that child that would have made all the difference? You're
Yeah.
strong. You're stronger than you know. I believe in you. I love you. You're enough. I I want you to have your own back, right? Wholeheartedly before you even lead or try to take care of everybody else in your life, right? So if you're listening to this, it's like, hey, recovering people pleaser, woman in business who climbed the corporate ladder, who's burnt out, solopreneur woman who's just trying to make it. If you're listening to this, go back to that girl because I guarantee you she needs to hear from you. Like, if you've done this or not, I need you to go to her so that she knows she's not alone and that she's not abandoned. You won't abandon her because you are all that you need to feel safe. Like, you are the catalyst. You are the thing that's going to be it for your kids. You are the legacy even when you're long and gone. So it's like, think about what does that girl need or boy, young boy, and what is it that the legacy that you want to leave behind, right? So we have younger child. What would you say to her or him, right? What did I really need that would have made all the difference? Because now I know and I can give it instead of seeking it out for the rest of my life. And so once you make peace with that is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind? You have no control over the world in which things, but you do have control in the way in which you lead with love, that you just create micro wins for yourself, that you're more courageous each day. What do I want to be known for? What is the legacy that I want to create? And I think that that's a beautiful reflection piece is journal on it, Write it, and I'm going to challenge you to go back and listen.
Mhm.
Write it down, schedule an email, and write a letter to that girl, schedule it to send it to yourself a year from now. Read the letter out loud. Hear yourself. Hear your voice. I know you're like, I don't like the sound of my voice. Listen to your voice. And I promise that that'll open up parts of you and inspiration and things that you have all of the answers. Whatever you're struggling with right now, you have everything that you need to take up so much space unapologetically. So do not apologize. Do not stop prefacing your statements with, I'm sorry. Is it okay if? Stop doing that. Be very clear on what your non negotiables are. Come up with two, whatever it is, right? Maybe your non negotiable for your colleagues is like, I will not respond to anything after 8 p.m., right? Do not schedule over my block time in my calendar, whatever it is. You might be in a toxic family member situation or during the holidays where someone asks you for the fourth time when you're going to have your fifth child or when you're going to get married. Maybe your boundary is and sounds like, I'm not interested in having that conversation. I'm not available for that conversation. Non-negotiable. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. This is why you're a motivational speaker, my dear. Uh, I'm just like glued. Thank you so much. I think our listeners are going to be very empowered and in for a treat because even if the whole thing doesn't resonate with them, there's going to be one nugget, of truth, one thing that they're going to be able to take away from this. So with that, Leslie, is there anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about or promote or share?
If anything did resonate with you, I definitely encourage you to head over to reclaimingyourcourage.com. Join stay plugged in, join our monthly newsletter for these little tidbits. I'm a big fan of video. You'll get lots of tidbits, a lot of trainings around, well, how do I even begin to use my voice? If you're intrigued with what you heard about today, definitely there's three ways to work with me, right? Is like if you have an event and you are looking for that motivational speaker, reach out to me there. Secondly, workshops, whether it's locally here in the San Francisco Bay Area or traveling. I've traveled to Oklahoma City. I love I love community. I love co-creating. And lastly, to just be on the lookout for my retreats. My retreats are centered around really creating those safe spaces, but also doing good in the world for people and planet. So if you are someone who's like, I want to hear more about that Warrior Queens Rise movement, I want to do more for the underserved, all of this stuff, then then just like be in the know. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah, I 100% support that and agree with that because I'm still putting into practice the things that I've learned with my time with you, Leslie, with our workshop here in Oklahoma City. So just a little teaser for those who are out there. I still carry my water bottle. I still look at the door when I get into a Lyft or an Uber. I still do all these things that you taught us in your workshops that are just so powerful. And I would encourage everybody to definitely follow Leslie on Instagram because you do great at giving us little clips and videos too, you know, of how to not only defend ourselves physically, but also to use our voice and use our mind, use our body, use it all to reclaim our courage. With that, I'm so inspired and empowered. Thank you so much again, Leslie, for being on the show. I hope to have you back to Oklahoma, and I look forward to the retreat. I can't wait to learn more about that because that'll be a lot of fun. I think a lot of self-empowerment. And maybe some singing, a little karaoke wouldn't hurt.
Always singing. It's always singing, y'all.
What would be your walkout song?
Oh gosh, depends on the setting. So one of my visions and my dreams is I'm going to go speak at a stadium one day, perhaps Bangkok Stadium. I envision flames, I envision music, but if it were an event where I get to be a keynote speaker, it would actually be This Is Me from The Greatest Showman.
Oh, okay. I love it.
That's one of them because that's the ultimate underdog song if you ask me.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I saw what was it? It was Simon Cowell's show. It was either Britain's Got Talent or America's Got Talent or something like that. And the actual person who voiced that on in a movie auditioned, and it was very powerful. It wasn't the actual actress that sang it, but it was this other woman who did it, and she was reclaiming her voice as well because she's like, I'm tired of standing behind the scenes, not getting recognized that that was my voice, right? That was on the soundtrack.
Wow. So that would be my
Yeah.
inspirational one. But if it was a Muay Thai fight or like a self-defense like kind of challenge or whatever, of course
Yeah.
it'd be like insane in the membrane, like something crazy. I mean, I got a whole list of songs, Amy. Don't ask me. Like I know I got a whole soundtrack.
Okay. Well, you build in that karaoke in your retreat, and I'm there, honey.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Listeners, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Um, we hope that you will consider also sharing the podcast, writing a review, following Leslie, of course, and buying her books. All three of those books are very powerful books. I don't have the one that you have for the Warrior Rise one, so I'll have to get a copy maybe. But please do reclaim your power and your courage because you have everything you need to do it. And with that, have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for being a part of the podcast. Thank you, Leslie.